will likely top the agenda when India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar meets his U.S. counterpart Antony Blinken later today. This is the first trip by an Indian minister to Washington since President Joe Biden took office in January. Neha Punia tells us more.
Ross of Commerce here. And
the Indian Foreign Minister has a packed schedule ahead of him. He's expected to meet U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Friday, and the two are likely to discuss, among other things, security in the Indo-Pacific and the Quad initiative that's aimed at countering China's growing influence in the region. The U.S. has said it is keen to convene an in-person meeting of Quad members, including Australia, India and Japan later this year. There are also meetings scheduled with Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai. The Indian Foreign Minister's visit comes at a time when New Delhi has clashed with U.S. tech giants like Facebook and Twitter over new social media rules, but top of the agenda is going to be vaccine cooperation. While India's daily COVID-19 caseload has dipped, the country is still recording more infections and deaths than any other country in the world, and despite being the world's largest vaccine manufacturer, India's own vaccination drive has failed to take off due to severe shortages. Only 3% of all Indians are fully vaccinated, which is why experts say New Delhi will be hoping that the Biden administration will release a large chunk of its spare vaccines to India. The US plans to export 80 million doses from its stockpile by June to needy countries. Talks are also expected to cover the smoothening of exports of raw materials that India needs to scale up vaccine production at home. More than 200 ingredients come to the country from the US. Last month, caving under increasing public criticism, the Biden administration finally loosened restrictions on the export of vaccine raw materials, but domestic companies say supplies are still erratic. Reports suggest that the Indian Foreign Minister might also hold a meeting with Pfizer representatives. India's emergency authorization to that vaccine has been pending because of the US drug maker's insistence that its company get legal protection in the event of any adverse reactions from its vaccine. Neha Punia, CNA, New Delhi.
In other news, nearly 7 million people in Australia's Victoria state are in a new lockdown. It's its fourth since the start of the pandemic, and it took effect overnight and will last for a week. Authorities hope that this will help them contain a fast-growing COVID-19 cluster in Melbourne. 4 new cases were reported on the first day of the lockdown, bringing that cluster total to 30 in just 5 days. Victoria residents must now remain at home at all times. Exceptions are made for essential work, grocery shopping, healthcare or exercise. Masks must be worn at all times unless at home. Prime Minister Scott Morrison warns of tough times ahead.
The next 7 days in Victoria will be very challenging. And of course, we are very mindful of the distress and the difficulty that this will impose upon people right across Victoria as a result of what is being described, rightly I think, by the acting Premier as a circuit-breaking lockdown, and a lockdown for 7 days that hopefully won't go as long as that.
Mr. Morrison adds that has said that he will ensure Australia is among the leaders in the world when it comes to administering vaccine shots. But Australia has not only been slow in its rollout, vaccine hesitancy is rife. Brianna Piazza tells us what authorities are doing to convince more people to get inoculated.
We've heard many times now from our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, that Australia is the envy of the world because it's managed to, for the most part, stamp out COVID-19. In most of the country, really, life has been going on as normal with little or no restrictions at all. So it's really these lockdowns that are happening tend to be not too often, but still very, very much a concern for businesses, particularly here in Melbourne. So pretty much one of the issues that we're running into with the vaccine rollout is hesitancy. So that relates to very much sections of the population that are eligible to be vaccinated. Many people are holding off on getting their vaccinations because of concerns they may have around the safety of the vaccine. So even just in recent days, we heard that the vaccination hubs in Melbourne were pretty much empty, and people who walked past described these as heartbreaking scenes. But that is starting to pick up in recent days, state authorities in Victoria are starting to talk about opening up vaccinations to younger sections of the population. But also recently we've just heard that businesses are getting on board as well. So Australian airline Qantas is considering offering free flights and frequent flyer points to people who have had both vaccinations. It's understood that they're still trying to iron out a few of the finer details, but if that goes ahead, that would be coming into effect sort of towards the next few months and for the rest of the year. So definitely what we understand is that Australia's borders will remain closed until we can get much of the population vaccinated.
Well, Australia is also battling another growing natural disaster. A plague of mice is threatening farms in New South Wales. Millions of rodents have infested the agricultural plains across the state, forcing many farmers to burn thousands of dollars worth of hay and grain. There are growing concerns over the potential economic and social crisis. By day, the crisis is less apparent, and that's because the nocturnal animals come out after dark. In the millions, they can be heard scratching ceilings and chewing electrical wires. But residents say the stench of mice urine and decaying flesh is a constant, both day and night. The plague is a cruel blow to farmers in the state who have been battered by fires, floods and pandemic disruptions. New South Wales Top Agricultural Association predicts the plague will wipe out more than $775 million from the value of the winter crop. The state government has announced nearly $40 million in funding to tackle the plague and has ordered 5,000 litres of the banned poison bromadiolone from India. But critics fear the poison will kill not only mice, but also animals that feed on them. There are fears the infestation will spread. Experts warn the mouse plague is showing no sign of slowing down, and it's spreading across the country. Still have your Asia Business Update coming up with Eugenia Lim. Australia presses a case with the World Trade Organization against Chinese tariffs on the import of barley. Plus, Singapore authorities crack down on a social media platform for an offending poll.
Should you use your CPF for property investment? Come to the Singapore Property Show 2021 to learn more from leading property market experts in 40 informative webinars. Our top flight speakers will be covering a wide range of topics to help you make a most informed decision. How do you make the most of your CPF for property investment? Are ECs still the golden goose? Is owning multiple properties only for the wealthy? What kind of property is in demand by district? Get these answers and more. Plus, stand to win $8,000 worth of cash prizes. Join us at our webinars this weekend on 29th and 30th May for essential property investment advice. What are you waiting for? Visit sps2021.99.co to register now. The Singapore Property Show 2021 is proudly organised by MediaCorp and our esteemed partners.
This is Game Oji-san.
I make YouTube videos. While he does bespoke carpentry, I get up close with a new generation of local craft people.
Whatever it took to become a woodworker, I think I did it.
Starting with a furniture artisan.
If you are a CEO, the desk represents you.
Will I keep on my fingers? Handmade Tales, a brand new series, Sunday on CNA.
Every day, the financial world goes through dramatic rise and falls. We'll track the biggest market movers and show you where the opportunities lie. Get the experts' take on the performance of key indices. Plus all the analysis to help you understand forces driving global economies. The daily business news you need, only on CNA. This segment is brought to you by Xeon Corporation.
This Saturday, could rising inflation derail the post-pandemic economic recovery?
Those parts of the market that are more overvalued could easily get hit.
Relooking China's growth model as its population ages.
Chinese babies are not growing into industrial workers in the future.
Plus, how to be a part of the blockchain boom. Saturday on CNA.
so little land with so many mouths to feed.
Land matters.